I never once in my life thought I would be in a position to want or much less need to build my own PC. My laptop has gotten to the point that even with proxies, the videos wouldn't play back smoothly. It would do this weird thing where the video would play and you could hear the sound, but the visuals of it would either be frozen or play in chopped pieces. These are some good indicators that she can't process what I'm dishing out to her anymore. But to be fair, it wasn't until 2024 that I started using higher res video files. Up until that point, I was using 4K 8-bit and 1080p 8-bit videos. My laptop really started struggling at the end of 2023 when I purchased my A6700 and I started playing around more with 4K 10-bit video resolution. It doesn't make it any easier. And she clearly did not like that at all. So I did a little bit of research on whether I wanted to go the PC route or go with a MacBook and suffer through learning how to work the Apple system, such as not being able to right click. Even a fully spec'd out MacBook wasn't giving me the specifications that I required. And not only that, it was double the cost of what it would cost for a fully functional PC. I even looked into laptops because that's what I was most comfortable with. I've always had a laptop. I never had a PC before. None of the laptops at that time that I had seen in the market had the requirements, which for me was mainly the RAM. Even the most spec'd out and expensive costing laptop was capping at 32 gigs of RAM for like $3,000 to $4,000 for a fully spec'd out gaming laptop. So I needed 64 gigs of RAM for all the processes that I was going to be running it through. I was going to be using a Premiere Pro, Photoshop, After Effects, Illustrator, Lightroom, and I do want to at one point get into DaVinci Resolve as well. Not only is this the first time I've ever built a PC, I have 3 weeks to build it, film it, connect to the BIOS, update the drives, install Windows, and make sure that all of the components were properly working all within 3 weeks before the refund deadline. Did I mention that this was my first time ever building a PC? I purchased most of the parts for my editing PC at my local Micro Center, and this was my first time ever seeing a PC build up close. They were so pretty and well lit, but they were massive. I was not counting on them to be this big. After looking around for a bit, I had the Micro Center staff help me pick out all the parts that I would need for the PC. I'm not very tech savvy and I didn't do extreme deep research on anything other than the graphics card, the Intel processor, and the RAM needed for the programs that I would be terrorizing them with. So here are the parts that they picked out for me. I was advised on an Intel Core Ultra 7 265K chip for the brains of my PC. To match the CPU, I got a Gigabyte Z890 Eagle Wi-Fi 7 ATX motherboard. As anticipated, I got two 32 gig G.Skill DDR5 6400 RAM sticks. For the graphics card, I got the Gigabyte RTX 470S. For the cooler, I decided to go with the NZXT Kraken Elite 360 in white. To match the cooler, I purchased 2 sets of 3 Lian Li Uni SL Infinity 120mm fans in white. For storage, I purchased the Samsung 990 Pro 2TB internal SSD to start off with. To power all of these components, I got the SuperFlow FG 850 watt 80 plus gold ATX modular supply, which I was told was more than enough to power all of my components. And lastly, to hold and house and beautifully display all of these parts, I purchased the Lian Li O11 Vision Compact ATX case in black. Let's get to the build. I started first with adding the CPU to the motherboard. This was the scariest part for me, and I was so nervous I would bend a pin or touch the pins with my bare hands, but I got it in there. I moved on to adding the RAM sticks. Now, when these videos say not to be scared and apply some of your weight into pushing them into the motherboard, they mean it. I am pretty heavy-handed when it comes to a lot of things, so I am already generally scared when people say be heavy-handed. For these, you actually did have to put some elbow grease into them to hear that click. Next, I applied the 2TB NVMe SSD, and it was a little tricky to get in there the first time because I was nervous that I would bend it or break it, but I finally got it in there and I screwed it in. I got 2 terabytes because that would be enough for me to get started until I really needed to expand to a larger storage capacity in the future. I mainly focused on cases that were offered by Micro Center because I didn't know at the time that you could order them on different websites, and this case was the smallest that they had at the time, but looking back at it, it was still pretty huge. Now that the motherboard is assembled, I started preparing the case by removing the front glass, the top mounting rack, the backing, and the hard drive bays to add in the rest of the components. I went ahead and laid the case on its side and aligned the motherboard on the screw holes on the case and screwed them in, starting first with the top and working my way down to the bottom. After a small break of watching the same YouTube video 4 to 5 times, I went ahead and applied all the necessary cables to the PSU first. Then I screwed the PSU into its place in the case. I then took some time trying to organize where to put the wires through so it wouldn't be a complete mess after everything was connected. After getting it as organized as I possibly could, I went ahead and applied the cables to their corresponding connections on the motherboard. After watching another set of YouTube videos on how to connect the Lian Li fans, I went ahead and connected them together. I removed the bottom tray, screwed the trio of the reverse blade fans to the bottom rack. For the top rack, I connected the fans that came with the SDXC cooler, as they were also exhaust fans. For my second set of Lian Li fans, which were the regular blades or exhaust fans, I connected them directly onto the AIO on the back side panel. And quite obviously, mistakes were made. And yes, I was completely oblivious to this mistake until 6 months later when I am now editing this video. On to the most eye-catching part of the build, the cooler. Now for the cooler, as you can see, I was very shocked and worried by its massive size. This was a mix-up on my part. There are two versions of the Kraken Elite. One being the slightly older version that came out, I believe, in 2023, and the newer version that came out in late 2024. The first version was smaller and it had a smaller screen and a white bezel around it, which was the one I was aiming to get because it looked aesthetic in my opinion. Because I wasn't paying attention and I got confused between the two different versions, I actually ended up getting the version 2, which is this huge monstrosity that you see on the screen right now. I placed the cooler on the backside rack and screwed it into place behind the fans. After a bit of struggling, I was able to get it through the opening of the case for the cooler. Luckily, I was able to get it through without smearing the thermal paste or having to completely remove it. I applied the cooler to its place over the CPU and with the thumb screws screwed it in place. This was very difficult because some of the screws were hard to get through and the cooler was so large I actually couldn't use 2 fingers to screw it into place. So in the end, for the hard to reach ones, I actually ended up using a screwdriver. After applying all the fans and the cooler, I realized I didn't have enough USB ports on the motherboard to support the components. So I did a bit of research and found this internal USB hub, which gave me 4 more additional USB hubs to use. So I connected the top USB to the motherboard and started connecting all the fans to the Lian Li hub and then connected the hub to the USB hub. Now for the most important part of the build, the GPU. I removed 3 slots for the GPU, connected it to the motherboard, and connected the GPU to the PSU off camera. Yes, I forgot to film that. Once that was done, I plugged it in, flipped the PSU switch to on, and pushed the power button, and it turned on beautifully, displaying all these beautiful colors from the fans. Sadly, I was having a lot of problems with getting to the BIOS in this PC, and honestly, that's the first step to getting access to the PC. After hours of reading through Reddit forums, Quora forums, going through YouTube videos on troubleshooting, and searching through social media for any kind of help, I even changed out the screen to a spare screen that I have. I bought brand new HDMI cords. I tried display ports instead of the HDMI cords. I removed the CMOS battery, completely reset the motherboard. I did everything I possibly could and it still was not connecting to my screen. I ended up taking it back to Micro Center to have them run a diagnostics on it. Basically, in the end, they said it was my fault that I didn't connect the PSU with the proper cord. So I went home and I followed their instructions and I connected the PSU with the proper cord that they had instructed me to the proper ports. And I did double and triple check that everything was connected properly. I rewatched the videos in terms of connecting things to the PSU to the motherboard and double checked and triple checked, made sure everything was connected properly to its proper port. But it still did not connect to my screen or give me access to the BIOS. In the end, I was not able to keep the PC because I was running out of time and the deadline was quickly approaching to be able to return everything and get a refund. I had absolutely no choice but to just ixnay everything and return it. And I am not a big returner. I don't like doing returns, but this was $2,500. I was getting my money back. Even though I didn't get to keep the PC, I did learn a lot, especially in terms of building it and how to connect things. I know I would be more comfortable in the future and not as scared. This one took me a very long time. 3 weeks, I know for a lot of people, is more than enough time to be able to assemble a PC, but I wanted to take it absolutely slow and make sure I was understanding everything and that I wasn't messing anything up. I do plan on getting a PC soon in the next month or two, but I am just gonna go ahead and take my time doing more research. Maybe look more into a smaller case because that case that I had was absolutely massive. Now that I know a little bit more, I can do more research, take my time. But thank you for tuning in to this struggle bus of a PC build. Obviously, please, this is not a tutorial. This was just my struggle and how I tried to build my PC for the first time. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any tips or tricks for the future one, please leave them down in the comments. And hopefully in the next video, we'll have another PC out. If not, I'll see you in the next vlog, and thanks for tuning in. Bye.